Hi guys, it's time for my Bachelorette recap for this week. We had to wait 2 weeks for this episode last night because last week was July 4th and it was a repeat. I had no idea it was going to be a repeat. I think a lot of people didn't know it was going to be a repeat, and that's fine, but we had to wait 2 weeks to find out what happened last night, so now I'm going to tell you. So like always, if you have not watched the episode yet and you plan to and you don't want to know what happened, then you might want to come back to this video later because I am going to talk about who got a rose and what all happened. And also, I have my notes once again that I will be referring to. So there's that. So this episode, it was pretty much drama-free. It's down to 6 guys. And yeah, it wasn't really, there were 3 one-on-one dates and 1 group date. You know, this episode was a little more predictable. You kind of knew who was gonna go home and who was gonna get a rose, but it was still entertaining, it was still good. But yeah, it was really, you know, kind of anticlimactic, but that's okay because we had a lot of drama this season so far. So this was just a more mellow episode. So it started off, they were in Buenos Aires still. They have not left. They got the first date card. It was a one-on-one that went to Alex. So they were leaving Buenos Aires. They were going to the countryside of Argentina. They were driving there. So Alex got to ride with JoJo to the countryside where the rest of the guys had to get on a very unusual looking bus, and they rode in the bus together to the countryside. But they made the best of it. They created a rap song. They had fun together while JoJo and Alex had some one-on-one time in the car. They seemed a little bit bored though. They had some snacks. They seemed kind of bored. I didn't think Alex was going to get a rose just because they just didn't seem to be all that excited to be together in the car and spending time together. So the guys arrived at their destination. It was a polo club called Puesto Viejo. It looked really nice, like a nice little resort in the countryside. They seemed really happy with their accommodations. And then back on the date, Alex and JoJo went for gaucho lessons. So they learned what gauchos do and all about gauchos, and they bonded with a horse, and it seemed like a very nice date. They just didn't seem to have the same connection that JoJo had with some of the other guys. You know, Alex seems like a good guy and everything, but they just maybe don't seem like the right match for each other. And Alex did tell JoJo that he's falling in love with her, and unfortunately she wasn't as excited to hear that as she wanted to be. You know, she felt she was doing the right thing by sending him home right away because she didn't want to keep him around until the rose ceremony if she knew she wasn't going to give him a rose. So I felt bad for Alex, but at the same time, you know, maybe it is better that JoJo sent him home right away so that he wasn't left hanging when she knew she wasn't gonna give him a rose. So, you know, felt bad for him, but someone's gotta go home every episode. Meanwhile, back at the resort, the guys got the next date card, and it's a one-on-one, another one-on-one, and it went to Jordan. It was not surprising that Jordan got another one-on-one date. JoJo really seems to like him. So the next day, JoJo went on her one-on-one date with Jordan. They got in a private jet, woo, a private jet, and they went to a vineyard. Now, I thought they were gonna go wine tasting. That would have been such a cool date. Private jet to a vineyard to go wine tasting, yay. But what they did was they stomped on grapes. They had grapes in these wooden vats and they stomped on them, kind of like that Lucy, I Love Lucy episode, if you remember I Love Lucy, where they oh, my bird is just yelling at something. You all right? Okay, so anyway, so they were stomping on grapes the old-fashioned way, and then they drank the grape juice. I hope that grape juice was not from what they stomped on because that would be gross. But yeah, so they kind of made wine, not really, but the date didn't seem, maybe they did go wine tasting and they just didn't show it. But anyway, yeah, it was fun, it was cute, it was silly for the show, but I don't think I would enjoy that. So meanwhile, back at the resort, Chase and Luke were talking about JoJo and Jordan's relationship. I don't know if they would really be talking about that or if they were just told to talk about that for the cameras, for the show, because it makes a good story. But yeah, they were speculating on why Jordan's a front runner. So then back on the date, Jordan was talking to JoJo about his family, telling her more about himself, opening up more to her. He talked about why it bothered him so much when James said he was entitled. It just made me like Jordan more. I think Jordan just seems like a really good guy. I think a lot of the guys, maybe they're jealous because they know he's a front runner. They can see that JoJo really likes him, so of course they're gonna try to find things they don't like about him. They say there are red flags, but I just don't see red flags at the moment. I hope that he stays a good guy for the rest of the season. I guess we'll see how that goes. But Jordan did tell JoJo that he is in love with her, and she was really happy to hear that. She really likes him. I have a feeling she's going to pick him, but you know how this goes. Sometimes they lead us down one path when it's really another, so we shall see what happens. So the next day was a group date. The group date was with Chase, James, and Robbie, and they were going to do some outdoor activities, but there was a torrential downpour that made it impossible. So instead, their plan B was just kind of a little party in a suite at a hotel in Buenos Aires. It didn't look like the greatest date on the planet. I wonder if it was just something they had to throw together really quickly, and so this is what they did. They just had some snacks and games and spent time together in a hotel suite, kind of like a pajama party sort of thing. The games were things like Truth or Dare, and I'm not a big fan of that. And then they watched the Argentinian Bachelor on television. That's kind of cool, but it just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't seem like the funnest date on the planet. My favorite are the fairy tale dates. Even the group dates they can make a little more interesting, but I'm wondering if that is just something that they had to put together because of the rain. Who knows? But yeah, James threw Robbie under the bus. So he threw Jordan under the bus last time, and that didn't seem to work. So then he threw Robbie under the bus. He said Robbie was staring at other women all the time. Who knows? We didn't see it. But Robbie got the group date rose, so this is one thing we know about JoJo. You don't throw people under the bus. If you throw someone under the bus, that person that you threw under the bus is gonna get a rose. So that's something I like about JoJo. She forms her own opinion, and that is good. You know, maybe she might question some things that she hears, but in any case, she forms her own opinion. So good for you, JoJo. So the next day was the one-on-one date with Luke. That was such a short date. They did some horseback riding, they went skeet shooting, they talked a little bit, and then she said that she kind of cut the date short. She said she made her decision. She didn't want a cocktail party for the rose ceremony, and she sent Luke back to the resort with the guys, or maybe they were still at the resort on the date, but she just, sent Luke back with the guys and knew what she was going to do. It was very anticlimactic this time, but at the same time, you kind of knew from the beginning what she was going to do. I think her decision was made at the last rose ceremony, but maybe she just needed to be sure. And she did send James home, and you kind of knew that was coming. I like James. I wish he didn't throw so many people under the bus. I think he just kind of felt insecure and maybe felt like if he said what he said, then that would sway JoJo, but it's, I think she likes who she likes. I think Jordan is the front runner. I think Luke is a front runner. Robbie, now that we don't have James as our villain, we had Chad as our villain, but he got sent home. Then we had James, not quite a villain, but he was more villainous than others by talking about others. So he got sent home. So now we need another villain. So it's Robbie right now, because Robbie is thinking he's the front runner, but I don't think he is, unless maybe she picks Robbie and we just don't know it. Who knows? But I think that is what they're setting us up for in terms of a new villain, because we always need a villain, right? So next week are the hometown dates. Gosh, you never know how those are going to go, because, right now I'm thinking she's gonna pick Jordan, maybe Luke, but you never know. Maybe after meeting someone's family, she decides to send someone home. But the hometown dates are always interesting, so who knows what's gonna happen next week. So that's pretty much it for this week's episode. Not a ton happened. We kind of knew, what the outcome was going to be, but hey, it's a great show and I cannot wait to see it next week. So let me know in the comments below who you think JoJo should give her final rose to. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more Bachelorette recaps each week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.